Buying tickets to sports and concerts can be complicated, but there is a better way to buy with SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to every type of live event. And right now, get $20 off your first purchase. Just download the SeatGeek app and enter promo code WINGO today.
1 week before the big man comes down the chimney and gives toys to all the kids, because Santa is real, folks. We continue on Golic and Wingo. Glad you're here with us on ESPN Radio.
I know
and ESPN2.
him.
I know you're wearing the shirt. If you're watching on ESPN2, you got your elf shirt.
Got my elf shirt on. We're going to have some
Will Ferrell.
We'll have some crazy. We're going to get some crazy sweaters for Friday. We're going to have everybody make sure they get their
Looking
crazy
forward
sweater
to that. Can't wait.
Here.
Going to
Absolutely
be great.
Right.
We're presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Sal Paolantonio will join us in just a few minutes. Talk about the Steelers game as well as the Eagles and how they looked with Nick Foles, very similar to the offense that they ran with Carson Wentz.
Mm-hmm.
Ian Begley, ESPN Knicks reporter, will join us at the bottom of this hour, and then Ryan Clark will be here in the last hour as well. I'm sure he's still trying to cope with what he saw play out at Heinz Field on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I would say so as well. And a lot is made about the Jesse James, the catch, non-catch situation. But as we've been saying all morning, there would be more than a few plays you could look to on that game or in that game to say that could have had something to do with the outcome. I thought it was a good game all the way around. I mean, I didn't think there was any way it was going to live up, but it lived up to the expectations.
It certainly did. And look, as we said all along, we circled that game when the schedule came out and said, hey, this might be the game to watch. For a lot of different reasons, and for all those reasons, it absolutely did play out that way. Sal was on the sidelines for ESPN Radio for the Pat Steelers game. Bill Polian was also doing that game. And Sal joins us now via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Sal, as you were watching the end of that game and that 3 or 4 play sequence by the Steelers at the end of the game, what was going through your mind?
Totally surreal moment. Never seen anything like it. I don't think any player did either that was playing on either sideline. And a couple of the Steelers players were really angry and upset. It was a helmet throwing moment for a lot of players on that sideline. And totally disbelief. I mean, in shock. It was crazy. You know, they had 68,574 people. I'm in Philly Airport, so you can hear some of the sounds of the airport here. Christmas in Philly Airport, love it. 68,570, largest crowd in Heinz Field. Now, I've been on the deck of an aircraft carrier during flight ops. That stadium was louder than anything I've ever heard on an aircraft carrier. And then once the interception happened by Duron Harmon in the end zone, you could hear a pin drop.
I guess the other time, let's go back before we go forward toward the end of that game. Maybe another time you could hear a pin drop when Antonio Brown was laying in the end zone holding onto his leg. And the way it looked, I thought maybe he broke his leg. Was it his ankle? Turns out it's a partially torn calf. But take us through that moment, and I bet it was awfully quiet then.
Yeah, it really was. And to be on the sideline and to see, him being helped off the field, everybody was standing in the crowd, focused in on number 84 as he came off the field, and he went, of course, into the blue tent. They quickly took him out and took him to the locker room, and I followed him. And they went into the X-ray room, which is right next door to the Steelers locker room, and stayed in there a long time. And then somebody with a uniform on discovered that I was in the wrong place at the wrong time and kicked me out. So I didn't get to see him come out, and then they gave us the update that he was going to the hospital. And, they survived that, though. They still converted over 60% of their first downs. They survived everything that happened to them in that game. They survived Gronkowski and still came back. But they couldn't survive the NFL rule book. And that was, to me, we live in America, right? We don't want any kind of centralized government or centralized office controlling our lives. We like to do things on our own. Autonomy has been the hallmark of what we do. And people just don't like the idea, I think. It's very a Clockwork Orange way that somebody is looking into a Microsoft iPad, and back in New York they are making a decision. It's very George Orwellian.
All that may be true, Sal, and I love the political spin you just sort of went on there. But look, by the rule, the call was correct.
No question.
Yeah.
No question. You got to survive the ground. You know, my son-in-law's 6'4", can jump through the building. He's always my wide receiver in the turkey bowl. I've seen him survive the ground when he comes down with the football. Okay, you got to be able to survive the ground, but they got to change the rule. Trey.
Well, no, you're right.
They got to change the rule.
Well,
I mean, his knee was down. The ball had crossed the plane. It's a touchdown from common sense standpoint, and that I think is my point. Is like everybody in the stadium knew, and I was standing literally 5 yards from Tony Corrente, and he was in a long, animated discussion. Now I can read some lips, and I don't want to repeat it in anything that I may or may not have interpreted what happened, but you could tell that he was in a long, animated discussion with New York, and that's a situation where Tony Corrente is a smart, experienced referee. We got smart, experienced referees in the National Football League. Let him make the decision on the field in front of 68,574 people. That's it's just bad optics for the National Football League that some faceless guy, and we know who he is. Al Riveron's a good guy, but it's some guy in New York makes the decision. It just doesn't look right.
Well, you're right there, and we've talked a lot about, while it was the right interpretation of the rule, we'd like to see the rule change and be consistent when a player breaks the plane of the touchdown, whether it's a runner or a receiver with possession of the ball. If it ends on one side, it should end on the other side. So that's sort of the way we've looked at it. But the other thing of this, Sal, which sort of gets lost in this discussion, the Steelers still had plenty of chances to either win the game or send it to overtime. So as much as we're focusing on that one play, that was not the death knell of this game for Pittsburgh.
No, it wasn't. I mean, you gotta clock it, and you gotta kick the game-tying field goal, and you gotta live for another day. And I think that's what Roethlisberger wanted to do.
As far as the possibility of these two teams meeting again, what did you take from this? There are those that are saying what we took from it is you can see the mortality of New England, especially when Brady gets hit, and you can see the fact that if they play again, it would be no shock if Pittsburgh were to win this game.
I don't know, Michael. I don't know about that. I mean, Patriots are like the end of Terminator 2, man. I mean, you got to put a titanium stake in their heart, and then, even then, it's never over with these guys. And, it was such an incredible scene in the Patriots locker room after the game. Tom Brady, feet up in his locker, FaceTiming with his children back home about fantasy football and The Last Jedi. It's sort of like, okay, I just cut the heart out on the road of my biggest rival, and I'm just like another 40-year-old guy who went to work, and now it's time to FaceTime my kids. These guys, Brady's become like Jordan to me. He wants to win at all costs, and in the end, it's just business as usual.
Well, along those lines, you're right. They had the opportunity to maybe end the game with that tip ball that Sean Davis couldn't quite hang on to there. And then it just seems like whenever it's like the Carolina game, or not the Houston Texans game, where they didn't go for the touchdown. They didn't get the touchdown. They kicked the field goal. And you just felt like, okay, Brady's going to find a way to get this done. And it's almost like after that reprieve, he started finding Gronk left and right. And look, the Steelers actually played him pretty well, but those were really perfect throws by Brady on that drive to get him down the field. There was nothing they could do.
Yeah, and going into the game, we all talked about the fact that, hey, you can't play zone coverage. You can't let them find the voids. And they played a lot more man coverage. They did bracket Gronk. They did play one-on-one coverage and opportunities that Brady took advantage of. But as Belichick said after the game, even when Rob's covered, Rob's open. And Gronkowski's just too big, too strong, soft hands, too quick. Ball placement is just too perfect. It's like Stockton to Malone. That's what it's like. It's literally like Stockton to Malone.
Our NFL reporter Sal Paolantonio joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. How about the mood in the other locker room, the Steelers locker room? I'd imagine there might have been some dented lockers in that one after the game.
Yeah, we weren't allowed in to see that, Michael.
Wow.
But Yeah, I was standing on the sideline when the players were coming off after the interception by Duron Harmon, and I could tell you there were some dented helmets, definitely paint flying as guys were throwing their helmets at anger.
Well, it was crazy. And Sal, look, but just give us one final sense, because the swing of emotion in the final minute of that game. You have the Steelers with the lead. They've had the lead almost the entire game. They find a way to come back, and it looks like they're going to finish them off. Then Brady takes them right down the field. Right after that, you have the Juju Smith-Schuster play, which out of nowhere, with 56 seconds left, puts them in a chance to win it, and then it crushes with the incomplete pass and then the interception. Have you ever seen a swing of emotion like that over a minute in a game?
How about coming back from 28-3 in the Super Bowl last year?
There you go. That would do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I think if we've learned anything in these last two games, or even three, I mean, you go back to even Russell Wilson's interception in the end zone. And, it's like you can't let these guys hang around for 12 rounds. You got a chance to knock them out. You got to knock them out, or you got to pay. And I was thinking about this, Trey. If Gostowski doesn't miss that extra point in Denver, the Pats could be on a 4-year run of Super Bowl wins, because I think they're going after this one. I don't see how they get stopped. From going to Minneapolis. I really don't.
Well, it's like we said before, if it weren't for the Manning family, they might have 10 already.
Yeah, how about
I mean, Eli's beat him twice, and Peyton's beat him 3 times in an AFC championship game.
By the way, back page of the Philadelphia Daily News as they arrived in Philly Airport this morning, Mickey touchdown.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely right.
All right, Sal, we appreciate it, bud. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sal.
Thanks. Merry Christmas.
You too, pal. Sal Paolantonio.
I get what he said. Listen, I picked New England to make it to the Super Bowl this year to play Seattle, which it's not going to happen on that end. But I'm not as listen. I know Pittsburgh's down. I get it, but man, there was a lot of good to take from that game. I think for them, a lot of opportunity. The fact that they ran the ball, they controlled the clock in this game, and I know. Okay, you say all that. They ran the ball well. They controlled the clock, and they still lost the game. I get it. But, man, I mean, look how they lost that game. If I were Pittsburgh, I know I'd be mad. I know I'd have whipped my helmet. I know I'd have broke some things in the locker room. But when the dust settles, if these two teams meet again, it won't surprise me if Pittsburgh can take control of this game, running the ball again like they do, and trying to get to Brady and trying to hit him and get some big plays themselves like New England did. So I think it could be another fantastic game.
Golic and Wingo, presented by 30 for 30 podcast. There are stories you just have to hear to believe. Subscribe right now in the Listen tab of the ESPN app or Apple Podcast, brought to you by Citi Double Cash Card. Okay, but let me ask you this. How important now is Mike Tomlin to this team? Because, as you said, devastating loss. You thought you were going to have it. You could have potentially wrapped up home field advantage next week after that win. Now they've got to struggle to make sure they finish ahead of Jacksonville just to get a bye, and you won't have Antonio Brown, it looks like, for the rest of the final 2 games of the regular season. You hope you have him for the postseason. For the head coach, how important is it for him to basically pull a Bill Belichick, who would say, if they had lost this game, we're on to Buffalo? He would say, we're on to Cincinnati. How important is it for Mike Tomlin now to set the tone for what has to happen going forward for this team?
See, I think it is important, and I think he'll do a good job of it. You heard him after the game not wanting to get into the incomplete pass. He says, and I'm not crying over spilled milk. I'm moving on. That's all he can do because he knows what's in front of him. And the thing about them, Trey, is they have a veteran team.
Yep.
They have a veteran team, a bunch of guys who will, I'm telling you, they're going to watch that film today. Was it Sean Davis is going to be sick?
Yep.
Sick when he sees the drop. Jesse James is going to be sick knowing he could have put them in a situation where he doesn't bobble that ball and the ball game is over. They may be sick on the playing call of a slant instead of trying a fade route instead of the slant, which is an interception, which they missed that thing. You kick a field goal, you go to overtime. There will be enough plays in that game that they made positively and that they missed where they know they can do better, where I think they're going to go, okay, this stunk. This was awful the way it all happened. But you know what? If we play them again, We can beat them. That's what's going on in that locker room. Once they calm down, once everybody's temperature returns to normal again, and they look at this game and see what happened, I know everybody else is the mystic New England Patriots and find a way to win. Pittsburgh had this team, and they know it. So they have a bunch of, like I said, veteran guys in here who will go out and try and get that job done again. And I give them a good chance if they meet again in the playoffs.
I hear you, but you know what? Atlanta had them too in the Super Bowl, and they let them get away.
I get
Seattle had them in the Super Bowl,
Sal
and they
was
let
right.
it get away.
It is a Terminator. You got to put that. You got to really put them down. You have to. I get it.
They are relentless. I don't know if I've ever seen a team like this ever. I mean, to me, those 90s Cowboys might have been the most dominant team I ever saw before free agency split them apart. But that was just sheer talent overload, okay? What I admire most about the Patriots is that they have adopted fully what the head coaching philosophy was like, look, whatever happened, just go forward. Whatever's behind us, we can't worry about. Go forward, and we'll find a way to forge a win. And they just keep doing it time and time again. So a devastating loss for Pittsburgh. And also, they're still in the playoffs, okay? They're going to get a home game. They could be the number 2 seed. They're probably going to get a bye. So all of that is still ahead of Pittsburgh. It might have ended for the Green Bay Packers on Sunday with the loss to Carolina in Carolina, although it was a very close game. Rodgers 3 picks, but also 3 touchdowns, coming back from the broken collarbone after missing 7 games. And after the game, Rodgers obviously stating that it didn't work out quite the way he had hoped.
It's not the fairy tale that we were hoping. As I lay in that surgery bed 8 weeks ago, thinking about this moment, obviously saw it going a little differently. But I'm proud of our guys for the way they played the last few weeks. Today, disappointed. I didn't play very well. Obviously, I hold myself to a high standard. Expected to play well. It's good defense, but I made too many mistakes. And even still, we had a chance there at the end to come back and tie it. But we've had a great run around here. And as long as I'm here, I'm confident that we'll be in the mix every single year.
Well, that's sort of telling. We've had a great run this year, and as long as I'm here, we'll be in the mix every year. It is all about 2018 now for the Green Bay Packers.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, you saw him, and he's one of the most accurate passers around. I don't mean just by completion percentage. I mean where he throws it to a receiver.
Right.
And you could see he was off. He was inconsistent, which is understandable. I don't even mean that in a negative way. It's just, my God, he's missed, 8 weeks? You know, and he's got hardware in the shoulder now. Just some of those throws where he usually hits a guy perfectly, they were off a bit. 3 interceptions for sure. That's an issue for him, something you never see out of him.
First time since 2009.
To go along with the 3 touchdowns. So it was a struggle, but you played a really good team. You played a defense that's playing more like the team from 2 years ago than like the team from last year. So you had, there was no game to ease into to try and come back a little bit. This was a tough game to play for. So yeah, they are done I think they're done for the rest of this year. So we'll see what happens with them as they finish out their year, but they're done, and Carolina still has themselves in a nice position.
Carolina is interesting now, okay, because Christian McCaffrey, it certainly felt like that was the full Christian McCaffrey experience. They used him all over the field.
They did.
Now, if they can get a little bit more sort of consistency in the passing game, because we know Cam can do damage with his legs. There's no question. They can get a little more consistency, and having Greg Olsen back, that team is very interesting.
I completely agree. Getting Olsen back, I think, was huge. The defense has been, knock on wood, staying relatively pretty healthy. That front seven, you really dig what they're doing. So, yeah, I like what they're doing right now. So they're home to Tampa Bay next week, and then the big one, and Atlanta again. After we'll see what Atlanta does tonight. Everybody expects them to win tonight in the Monday Nighter against Tampa Bay. But boy, sure sets up for a last couple nice weekends.
It certainly does. Meanwhile, all of this is going on the field, and just craziness off the field is Jerry Richardson, the owner of the team. It was announced on Friday after we got off the air that he was being looking into allegations of workplace misconduct. And then over the weekend, he announces he will be selling the team at the age of 81 once the season is over.
The only owner this team has had, and only one of two, was the George Halas being the other, of players who actually played in the league to own teams. And listen, if you read the article on what allegedly went on, and I guess we have to use that word as an investigation is going on, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's just, you read it, you're like, how do people do this? I mean, it blows my mind. Some of the thought process of some people, if this stuff is true. And now, I mean, what happens? So now the team was going to investigate. They turn it over to a league to investigate.
Well, the NFL has to investigate. So, that's the thing.
But I mean, what if Jerry did do something wrong? What happens? He's going to sell the team. He's going to make a healthy profit, I'm sure, selling the team. And then if he's not the owner of the team anymore, what does the league do if they find improprieties there? I mean, do they do something still to the team and the new owner? Is that going to be fair? I don't know where it goes. Again, if you read the story on it, you just shake your head and say, what the hell is on people's minds with the thought process of some of the garbage that they're doing, allegedly doing? But that's now again. He'll sell. He'll make a profit, right?
Yeah,
There's
he's
no
going to
doubt
make
about
money
it.
on the team. There's no question about that.
He's going to make money, and I don't know what goes on from there. Then don't know.
Well, that would be the curious thing from the league's perspective. How do they handle this once he has divested himself?
Right.
He's out of the league.
Is it no longer the league now? Is it the former employees that maybe go after?
But that apparently they've already settled cases.
Right.
With
some
them.
had settled. Right.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. Right.
So it'll be curious to see what from the league's perspective how this is handled after he divests himself of the team, and that'll be something that will certainly play out long after this season is over. Again, Jerry Richardson saying he will sell the team at the end of the 2017 season. And people are lining up to say they want to buy it. P. Diddy saying, hey, listen, let's go.
P. Diddy's worth about $820 million.
Yep.
I mean, that's a good start. You know what I'm saying?
Think about what you just said.
Holy smokes.
That's a good starting point to buy an NFL team. So when people are talking about the NFL and all this kind of stuff, if $820 million won't get it done, remember the Bills, who have the longest active playoff drought, although they might end it this year.
Yeah.
With the big win they had against the Dolphins, they may finally get it
now.
They're in right now, but that team was 1-point-something billion.
Yeah.
So a team that has had success, the franchise rights for they're going to go through the roof.
Go P. Diddy. Hope he
go
gets
get
it.
in there.
Awesome.
He would be the first majority African American owner of an NFL team.
The dude's done well in the business world and the music industry, hasn't he?
And he's also run the New York City Marathon.
Well, there you go.
He's done a lot.
Feather in his cap.
There you go. Aaron Rodgers' return wasn't the only one that didn't go according to plan. We'll discover another one next on Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN2.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Life happens. With ADT, you can feel safe with an ADT starter kit professionally installed for only $49. Call today and install an ADT starter kit that includes security panel, keypad, key fob, entry and motion sensors, and for a limited time, get a camera included and installed at no additional cost. That's a $449 value installed for just $49.
Requires 36-month monitoring contract, QSB, and EasyPay. Activation and early term fees may apply. Certain marks excluded. License available at ADT.com, Florida EF001121, Louisiana F1639.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. And as we mentioned, all phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, including our next guest, Ian Begley, the ESPN Knicks reporter. Obviously, he's worked for the Daily News, has covered every team in New York for many, many years, talking, of course, about the return of Carmelo Anthony Saturday night. Ian, thanks for being with us. So the Knicks beat the Thunder in Melo's return. What was your take on how the Knicks as an organization handled Melo's return?
I thought they did a very nice job with the tribute video during intros. I thought it was a very classy move by the organization. Carmelo Anthony certainly appreciated it. He said he didn't expect it, but he said that kind of thing goes a long way with him. He thanked team president Steve Mills and GM Scott Perry for handling it the way that they did. And I just wonder if or how things would have been different if Phil Jackson was still running the team at this point. Does Carmelo get that kind of tribute when he comes back here? Carmelo was actually asked that question after the game, and he said, listen, I'm moving on from that situation. I try not to think about it. But the look on his face told you that he was kind of wondering the same thing.
You know, you said in the beginning of that answer that he didn't expect it. What did he expect?
I'm not sure because, we had reported that there was going to be a tribute, so maybe that was just him giving a kind of a coy answer, which he's apt to do. He's been apt to do with his dealings with the media. But maybe he just expected a regular introduction and then the fans reacting the way they would react. I'm really not sure. I think that he probably should have expected some kind of tribute video, given who he was dealing with this regime and this front office. But he did say he was caught off guard. He called it a bittersweet moment because what it did is it kind of triggered his thoughts to go to places where he kind of thought about, hey, I didn't deliver what I wanted to deliver in New York as far as the success that I wanted to bring to this franchise. We didn't get close to winning a title the way that I had hoped we did. And he said it was a little bit of an emotional moment there right before the game.
Yeah, ESPN's Knicks reporter Ian Begley joins us on Golic and Wingo. So, I mean, it was exactly, I think, what you'd want if you're a Knicks fan. You get the tribute, you boo, and then you get the win. So yeah. if you're the Knicks fan, you got your moment to honor Melo, then you boo him as you do when he touches the ball, and then you come away with the win. You know, and Melo's time in New York is kind of interesting, right, Ian? I mean, look, he did a lot for the fans, a lot for the game, and a lot for the Knicks, but it never quite meshed. So, 6.5 years, I think they made the playoffs 3 times. How would you look back at his sort of tenure with the Knicks?
I think overall disappointing, but I think you can't really painted in kind of a black and white picture where you blame Melo for everything that went wrong with what happened with the Knicks, or you blame management for everything that went wrong with what happened with the Knicks during his tenure. Because I think there are a combination of factors at play here that led to their lack of success. Phil Jackson and the previous regime, Donnie Walsh and then Glenn Grunwald, didn't do a great job surrounding Carmelo with enough talent to lead, to give him that supporting cast that so many other superstars in the NBA had to bring the Knicks to those greater heights that they were hoping for. But then on the other hand, the way Carmelo played, you can make an argument that he didn't do enough to elevate that cast that was put around him, which a lot of great players in the NBA do. So I think there's blame to go around, but a lot of people in this town, they want to look at Carmelo and see him as the reason for everything that's gone wrong for this team in the last 6.5 years. I just don't see it that way. I think you put some blame on management, you put some blame on Carmelo, but ultimately I do think that the tenure was a disappointment here in New York.
But look at, I guess, coming out through the other end here. I mean, Amari Stoudemire is thought to be a big money guy there and to help. Obviously, Carmelo, Phil Jackson's brought in to be Phil Jackson and have all the free agents flock to New York, which obviously was a horrible failure from that standpoint of it. And here you are with none of those guys there anymore, and a team that's sitting 16-13 and 14-5 at home this year, and you have one of the great stars in the league in Porzingis. So where this team is now, after all of that money spent, big names, here you are with none of the big money or the big names, and a team that's doing pretty well.
Yeah, Mike, for the first time in a long time, I think it is safe for the Knicks fan to see a light at the end of what has been a long, dark tunnel here in New York because of the reasons that you spelled out. You have Kristaps Porzingis here, and he looks to be a player that you can build around, looks to be a cornerstone of a franchise. And you have Frank Ntilikina, a young point guard that the Knicks drafted with the 8th pick in the draft this year, and he's shown promise. He's shown a lot of progress from day one to now. He looks to be a guy who can, at the very least, defend at an elite level at the point guard position, which is one of the most important positions in this league. So there are young cornerstones that this franchise has. And again, for the first time in a long time, this team has all of its first-round draft picks going forward. So Steve Mills, Scott Perry, they have the opportunity here to get things right, to build things the right way around Porzingis and this young core. And listen, Phil Jackson did a lot wrong during his tenure in New York. He didn't trade well. He publicly alienated some of his players. He didn't do a good job selling his players and his coaches on the way he wanted to play the game. But what he did do well was draft well, because we have Porzingis here. We have Ntilikina here, a kid who, again, through 1/3 of the first season of his NBA career, looks pretty good. But you got to give Phil Jackson some credit there, because these pieces are what are giving Knicks fans hope at this point.
I'm not so sure how much are people going to be wanting to give Phil credit, but you're right. I mean, he is over the back end going forward. It might be better because of some of the things he did. Now, we mentioned Porzingis, Ian, as he joins us, Ian Begley on Golic and Wingo. He didn't play Saturday because of the knee. What's his status going forward?
And I think the concern here from a Knicks standpoint is Kristaps Porzingis used words like instability, and he talked about his knee buckling the Thursday when this injury happened against Brooklyn. So the Knicks are taking a cautious approach here. I was told, Adrian Wojnarowski and I were told the day after this injury that Porzingis' knee was feeling better and that there was no need for any significant tests. And that, to me, told me that this knee injury wasn't that significant. So I think the Knicks are just being cautious here. I wouldn't be surprised if Porzingis didn't play today against Charlotte. I wouldn't be totally stunned if they held him out for the next game on Thursday against Boston. But I think Porzingis will definitely be on the court for that Christmas Day game against Philadelphia. I think it's just a matter of the doctors and Porzingis wanting to be 100% comfortable that when he goes out there, he's not at risk of doing some significant damage to the knee, because that's the last thing this franchise could put at risk right now.
All right, Ian, we appreciate the time. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, gentlemen. Take care.
You got it. Ian Begley, ESPN Knicks reporter there. Look, it's interesting because the Knicks haven't made the playoffs since the 2012-13 season.
Well, I mean, listen,
it's been a long time.
This is two stories. This is Carmelo and the battle with Phil Jackson. And Carmelo, we all thought he would eventually was going to leave there, and he's gone. And where he's gone, that team isn't doing so well with three superstars in Westbrook and George.
Correct.
And it's not doing so well. And basically, like I said, the names that they tried to bring in there, that had there, and then a guy in Phil Jackson who was supposed to bring more names in, all that didn't work out. Here you are, with Porzingis, who was, making $4 million this year, and Beasley making, $1.5 million.
2.1, I think
is a 2.1. The
yeah.
guys in between, Hardaway's making a ton, 16.5, Cantor 17, Lee's making, I think, 11 or 12, right in that area there. But you like the direction this team is going, and you always saw them near the bottom. When were they going to be, competitive? And here they are, at least right now, 29, 30 games in, and we'll see where it ends up. But you can certainly see the building blocks here going forward.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha 99. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
So we roll on Golic and Wingo, and we've been talking a lot about a couple of controversial finishes in games, specifically the end of the Patriots Steelers. Although there wasn't controversy, it was just a really good finish and a crazy rule that was interpreted correctly, but it's got a lot of people's attention. I mean, I have friends of mine that work at other places like in golf, tell me, how is this not a rule? Explain to me. So the idea of what went on at the end of that game is certainly catching everybody's attention. And obviously we had the end of the Cowboys game with the touchback by Derek Carr that allowed the Cowboys to keep their playoff hopes alive. And we'll get into all of that more.
Right.
But we haven't yet talked enough about something that happened in the NFL on Sunday in over a decade, or in a decade, actually. For the first time since 2007, the Jacksonville Jaguars are in the postseason. And a big, big reason why is quarterback Blake Bortles.
Blake Bortles, absolutely. Last three games, you look at him, you're going back 3 games ago, the Colts, then Seattle, and then this one against Houston, completed 74, 66, and 72% of his passes for 2, 2, and 3 touchdowns. So 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. They just picked up his 5th-year option.
Right.
And I listen, I was one of the first ones to say when looking at Jacksonville in the future, they got the running back in Fournette. They spent a lot of money and draft picks on that defense as well, and the defense is certainly paying dividends there. And I said, if this team is going to reach where they want to go, it's going to be without Blake Bortles. He's not going to be that quarterback. I had said it early on. I said I don't think he's consistent enough. And listen, all he's done certainly in the last 3 weeks has proven me wrong and others wrong as well. We'll see if it holds. We'll see if the consistency holds going on into the playoffs. But you can't deny not only what they're doing, that deep, it's you target draft picks and you target free agents, and they paid some big money for free agents, and they've had some high draft picks that you've not used on defense, and it's worked. And that's the one thing, because we have seen a team like Washington, Trey, when they went to the free agent route, that they brought in tons of guys, wrote big checks, and never got a guy to a Pro Bowl.
Correct.
For years. So it's about proper scouting of draft picks and also of free agents, which they've done very well, certainly with the running back on the offense with Fournette. Blake Bortles, I just didn't think it was going to happen. And listen, I'm still not sure it's going to happen in the future. But they have picked up that fifth-year option. We'll see what they do after this year with him. But all you can do is play the games in front of you. In the last 3 games, he's been fantastic.
What he's done over the last 3 games, he's never done before in his NFL career. That's 3 straight games with multiple touchdown passes and 0 interceptions. In fact, in the month of December, 71% completion rate, 900 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, no picks, an NFL best 85.4 total QBR, and a 3-0 record. So essentially, he's averaging over 2 touchdowns and 300 yards a game. And remember, when this season started, the head coach, Doug Marrone, basically just said, we want to win a game without him really throwing the ball at all. We want to pound the rock, and we want to play our defense. Well, they didn't have Leonard Fournette on Sunday. I get it. It was against the Texans and T.J. Yates at quarterback, but they destroyed that team to punch their ticket into the postseason, and Bortles has been a big reason why.
Yeah, you look at those 3 games we talked about. The first one was against the Colts. Then it was against Seattle, who they beat 30-24. He threw for 268 in that one. And then this last one against Houston. Listen, it's not like in the beginning of the year we all had this, watch out for Blake Bortles.
No.
He's going to be an MVP candidate. He's going to lead this team. We all saw it. He had given you nothing to think that he was going to be, when they need it, you could put the game on Blake Bortles' shoulders. He had really done nothing to show you that. So, I felt very secure in saying I don't think he's going to be the quarterback of the future for this team, but give him credit to what he's doing. And again, without Fournette, as you mentioned, so they're going to have to rely on him throwing the ball a little more. So let's see where this thing goes. They're in such a great position by more defense in the running game. He has been a big reason for it in the last few games, obviously. But, hey, let's see where it goes. Let's see if the consistency is there and where it can take them in their last 2 games. They go both on the road. They go to San Francisco and to Tennessee.
Yep. Tennessee is going to be interesting because they're sort of limping to the finish here. By the way, Doug Marrone, short list of Coach of the Year.
Yeah, how can he not be?
Right?
Yeah.
He's got to be in consideration.
Yeah, it has to be, right? I mean, Sean McVay certainly is going to be there as a first-time head coach, and what is he, 16 years old? I mean, so I think he's obviously going to be right there. Marrone is going to be there. Doug Peterson, in Philadelphia can be right there as well. We'll see.
All right, so that's what's going forward. Again, Tennessee lost in San Francisco last week. Jimmy Garoppolo, 3-0, by the way, as a starting quarterback. So we'll have lots more to discuss on that going forward, not only in this show, but the rest of the week. But we also have Mike.
Here's your news of the weird with Golic and Wingo.
Moon colonies in 5 years.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Moon Express chairman Naveen Jain. I hope I'm saying that
I'm sorry. What chairman?
Moon Express.
So there's
chairman.
A company that's sort of cornering the market on future rides to the moon.
Not rides.
Yeah.
Colonization.
Right, but getting there is the Moon Express.
Yeah, and they're talking about
Forward
early
thinking.
Next year. The aim of Moon Express is to mine resources on the moon, which can then be sent back to Earth and used. Eventually, though, the company has said it is aiming to set up human colonies on the moon and forecast this could happen within the next 5 years.
I'm curious now, does it say there what kind of things are they mining to bring back?
No.
Because it's just dust, right?
Well, we don't know. I mean,
isn't it just dust and moon rocks?
Well, we don't know. I don't know if how far anybody's ever dug there to really dig down into it to see what you get.
So you got to go full Armageddon with the Bruce Willis jackhammer.
I think you're
that was a
have
meteor.
To.
I get that, but I mean, I'm curious as to what they're mining. I would love to know what they're mining.
Forgetting that, if you were given the opportunity, you can go live on the moon.
No,
would you do it?
No, there's no water.
We're both. Well, I mean, they're going to...
No, I mean, there's like no ocean. There's no pool. I'm going to need that.
Do we know that? We're going to dig. Maybe they'll find something.
So you're just going to find an ocean there?
We're both empty nesters. Let's say you and Janice,
honey,
me
we're
and Chris,
going to the moon.
Let's go to the moon.
To the moon, Gladys. To the moon
we go.
Oh, my God.
Think we can get reception?
Well,
be able to still do the show from the moon?
Check how many bars can I get from the moon.
Yeah, I got no service.
That's like us 100 years back in time. I have this box I'm putting up to my ear. I have no idea why. You give me an ocean on the moon, I'll go. That's it. Coming up, Ryan Clark will join us in studio next. I wonder how he's feeling. Stay with us.